Because like Teddy Bridgewater and the style are going to see the opposite on Sunday, and they're going to see what
Carson, are we waiting for Mayor Pro Tem
I'm
Sandgren?
here.
Oh,
I'm
you
stuck
are
in
here.
traffic though, so I might need someone to help with at least the chat box and hands raised. I'm not moving.
Sure. All right. Well, it's 7:30. We should probably get started. And so I'll, on behalf of our chair, Jessica Sandgren, Mayor Pro Tem of Thornton, I'd like to welcome everyone. I'd particularly like to welcome the new representatives that have been appointed to NATA from their jurisdictions, and understand that there are a number of jurisdictions that won't make these appointments until January. So I'll send out the list, the contact list for the 2022 NATA representatives and senior staff after I get those notifications from the rest of the jurisdictions. Some of the new, sorry, hold on. Sorry. Some of the new representatives that I have so far are Mayor Guyleen Castrato from Broomfield and Councilmember Austin Ward as the alternate. I have Mayor Ben Huseman from Commerce City as the member. I have Tracy Kreitz, Mayor of Frederick, as the member. I have Julia Marvin and Karen Bigelow, council members from Thornton, as the member and alternate. And Jessica Sandgren will be representing Smart Commute in 2022. And then we have Westminster Mayor Nancy McNally, welcoming her back to NATA. She served on NATA for a long time. And Dave DeMott, Mayor Pro Tem of Westminster. I'm waiting for the rest of the updates. We'd like to remind you that we would like you to sign into the chat box and let us know you're here so that we can keep that in our record. And I think that's what I have right now. We have a very short agenda today, I hope. We'd like to get you in and out of here, and I'm going to apologize ahead of time. I'm going to leave right after we talk about the CDOT stakeholders meeting, because I have a Transportation Commission meeting today that I need to attend. Mayor Sandgren, or Mayor Pro Tem Sandgren, would you like to have us just go to Smart Commute updates until you get here?
I mean, I can look. I can see the agenda. I just can't really see if people have their hands up. So I can go through the list. If somebody just wants to tell me who has their hands up, then we can go from there.
Perfect. Well, I'll do that then, if that's all right. I'll keep an eye on who's got their hands raised, and we'll let you know.
Okay.
The first order, of course, is the approval of the October 28th minutes.
Perfect. Do you have any questions about the minutes from October? Probably not. So if not, can we get a motion to approve?
Joan, Mayor Peck has her hand up.
I move to approve the October 28th NATA meeting minutes.
I'll
Thank you,
second. This
Joan.
is
Can we get a
Julie
second?
Mullica.
Thank you, Julie. Any questions with that? If not, we'll go ahead and accept the minutes. And we'll move right into the voting for the leadership slate. And so I believe Carson's going to explain this.
Yes, and can you see that we have a picture of you up here?
I see
it. We wanted to be sure before we move ahead to thank the leadership that we had this year. Extraordinary 3-woman powerhouse here. Jessica Sandgren, Mayor Pro Tem of Thornton, Joan Peck, who was the council member from Longmont and is now the mayor, and Mayor Anita Seitz from Westminster. Really did a great job this year leading NATA and being part of the process that we have here for advocacy for our North Area Transportation Alliance. So we just wanted to mention that before we let people go on, and thank all of you for everything that you've done. So now we can go on, and I think, Carson, you're going to just talk about how we make the how we make the appointments for the executive board today.
Because it's short, here's what the bylaws say about the succession planning here and officer elections. Chair, vice chair, and treasurer are elected officials of the alliance and selected by the voting members to serve on one-year terms, except the vice chair, who will automatically replace the chair at the end of his or her term. Members interested in the vice chair position must have 2 years of eligibility to ascend to the chair's position, and all officers must be eligible for the entire year of service. So relatively straightforward there. And a secondary piece here is the Strategic Planning Committee, the SPC. It acts as the executive committee for the NATA board and includes the chair, vice chair, treasurer, immediate past chair, preferably from areas that are not geographically represented by the officers already in place, and the immediate past chair. So we're looking for some geographic diversity there across the NATA region to serve on SPC. In terms of voting, I will defer to Karen, but I think each member shall have one vote. We don't want any duplicate votes from jurisdictions. This is either you or your alternate should be voting here today one time. And for the election of officers, our bylaws say a 2/3 majority of members present is required for that to take place. You may have to count.
Yes, and the SPC will be appointed in January, but we have a slate of interested candidates. You might go to that next one. Do we have that in a PowerPoint slide?
I have it in a poll, if that's okay. I might just launch and we can look at it.
Yes. So we have 4 people who thankfully are interested in serving in the executive position. And as we talked about this at the Strategic Planning Committee, what we'd like to have your approval on is to do the vote, and then the top 2 vote getters would be the executive officers then to join Mayor Pack. And then the other 2 would be assigned to SPC, if that makes sense. The thing with SPC is anybody can attend. It's really the Strategic Planning Committee that sets the agenda and the strategy going forward for 2022. So if everyone is acceptable with that process, that's how we'll move forward. But before we move forward, if there's anyone who doesn't think this is the process we should use, this is a different process because we're not in person. And we think this is the most efficient way to go forward. So if there's anyone who feels that this isn't a fair way to go about this, please let us know now, and we can change what we're planning here. And I'm gonna have to X that out, and I'd look for raised hands or something in the. All right, I don't see anything. Chair Sandgren, so shall we go ahead with this then?
Yeah, that sounds good. It's great to see so many people step up, and especially from some of our cities that we typically haven't seen for a while in that leadership role. So I'm excited to see so many.
Right, so we have new members for Thornton, and so Mayor Pro Tem Sangren, if you could vote for Smart Commute, our Smart Commute chair isn't on anymore. So if you would take the Smart Commute vote, and the vote is for any representative of NATA plus a representative from ACE Rep and a representative from Smart Commute are the voting members of NATA. So Carson has put the poll up there for you if you'd kindly vote, and only the representatives that I just mentioned can vote. Anybody from Smart Commute who's a member of Smart Commute and is ex officio to this group cannot vote.
And I don't see the poll anymore because I had to X out as well.
All right,
to get
can
to
you,
the unmuting myself?
yeah, can you resend that, Carson?
I can, one moment. I'm gonna exit the poll and then rejoin, and
Okay.
we may have to revote, but I'm sorry, that should be pretty simple.
Okay. There you
All right,
go.
we should
Back
be
on.
good. Thank you. We should be looking for somewhere around 15 votes, right, Karen?
Yes, so typically it's 15, although if there's a jurisdiction who isn't here, then that will reduce the number, and the vote is 2/3 of those present.
So Karen, this is Joan. Would you tell us once again who the eligible voters are?
Right. So my list, it's Adams County has 1 vote, Adams County. So that would either be Lynn or Steve. Ace Rep has 1 vote. That would be Lisa Huff or Deb Duran. Brighton is Mayor Mills or Adam Cushing. Broomfield, Mayor Guyleen Castriata or Austin Ward. Commerce City would be Mayor Ben Huseman or Craig Hurst. Dacona would be Mayor Joe Baker or AJ Euchert, if they're here. Erie would be Jennifer Carroll or Malcolm Fleming, or Todd, I guess it's Malcolm Fleming. Federal
Actually,
Heights,
Mayor Pro Tem Haid is here as the alternate for Erie, so he's voting for Erie.
oh, thank you. I'll change that then.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
That's all right. I think Federal Heights is just Celeste Arner. Because I don't think you've put a new person in yet to replace Mayor Pro Tem Harold Thomas. Firestone is Bobby Sindler or AJ Krieger. Frederick is Tracy Kreitz, Mayor Tracy Kreitz, or Brian Osler. Longmont is Mayor Peck or Phil Greenwald. North Glen is Julie Mullica or Jenny Wilford. Thornton is Julia Marvin or Karen Bigelow. Westminster is Nancy McNally or Dave DeMott, and Smart Commute is Jessica Sandgren.
Do we have all of those jurisdictions present today?
I don't think so. I haven't gone
Don't
through.
think- Yeah, I don't think Dacono's here, and I don't think Firestone is here. Frederick might be here. So did we get votes on this? We can go to the next stuff and let you start compiling that if you think everyone who's here has voted. This is a little more cumbersome when we're not in person.
It is. I have 12 votes, so I think we're doing pretty well. I think that's probably pretty accurate.
I
I'll
think
end the
that's-
poll.
Okay, that sounds great. And then let's go on if that's okay. And then you can give us the results of those votes sometime during this meeting when you've had a chance to collate those.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on to the Smart Commute update.
Yes, thank you. And I can take this, Carson, while you're working on that. So we wanted to tell you last month that we were doing quite a bit of RT Writer Appreciation outreach. And as you can see from the pictograph, we interacted with over 500 writers at 11 events and 6 stations. We did Thornton Park and Ride and the 120th Park and Ride and the N line at 2 or 3 of their stops. We targeted early morning commuters from 5:30 in the morning till 9. And then we did a couple of special events. We did Parade of Lights on the Saturday that the Parade of Lights was happening down in Denver. And we did a couple of Broncos games as well. We have over 10 pages of notes with writers' comments. And we'd originally thought we'd pass out hot chocolate to people waiting to get on the train or the bus. Honestly, at 53 degrees or 63 degrees, no one really wants a cup of hot chocolate. So we kind of scrapped that idea, but we did get coffee for people early in the morning at 5:30. And as you can see, we had 8 boxes of coffee, and we say 1 cup was spilled. maybe a little more than that. But anyway, we did that. And some of the stuff that we heard was really eye-opening for us. Catherine and I did an early morning one early on, and that's when we first heard about all the issues at Denver Union Station and how difficult it's been for RTD to manage the situation at Denver Union Station at the concourse where the buses pick up and let off. And I'm hoping we have someone from RTD who can speak a little bit about that and also talk about the steps that they're taking to solve some of those problems. They've really stepped up to this. This is an issue that I hadn't really heard about until we started talking to riders who said they didn't feel comfortable going into the station and that they'd been accosted by people who are really criminals camping out at the concourse and criminal activity that's going on. And so we got a lot of feedback. A lot of people said they took the bus because they don't have another way to get to work. Many people said they used to take the 122 exit that has been stopped running, and that they would prefer the 122X to the 120th, but they are taking the 120th because that's all that's open to them at the 120 park and ride. When we talked to people on the train, it was very interesting, and I cajoled and pushed RTD Director Vince Busick to come along with me on one of the M-Line outreaches, and that was an eye-opener for him as well. So some of the things on the M-Line that were interesting to me was people don't know how to buy a ticket. They don't know how to buy a ticket, and it's not easy. It's not easy to figure out the system if you've never done it before, and particularly if in your hurry to get on the train to get to the parade of lights in time or to get to your football game in time. At one point, only one of the ticket kiosks worked at the 124 station. The kiosk is right in front of the train, and then another one way off to the side. And when we would say to people, as the line got large, you can use the other kiosk, they didn't want to get out of line and walk all the way over to the other side. I think they were confused as to which ticket they should buy. It's not very self-explanatory. And then people had it on their apps. They are regular riders, but many people had ridden this for the first time. Many people thought it was a great thing to have. They were impressed with the train, with the service. One woman asked me if it was the right train. She wanted to be sure to go to Denver and not to Wyoming or somewhere like that. So it was a very interesting outreach. We really enjoyed doing that. We have pages and pages of comments that we'll share with RTD. We're putting that together now. And I think the fact that we have the online train is really, I think it's really appreciated by all the people who used it. And the other thing I thought that was very interesting on the outreach that I did on the train for Parade of Lights was how many families were using the train and how excited the kids were. And hopefully we're starting to build some lifelong riders for transit. So you can see someone mentioned that they really appreciate RTD. It lets them get downtown and get to work and for fun. And they came from another place that transit was prevalent, and they're really excited to be having that opportunity here. Thanks. That's what I have on that one. And the next one is, we just want to tell you that Smart Commute is really stepping up to do commute footprint analysis as a standalone product. We can really evaluate, we have a process that we can evaluate CO2 emissions, fuel consumption, and monetary expenses due to employment travel. And we can provide quantified metrics to help employers understand the commute-related negative externalities. We wanted to offer this to any of the jurisdictions or any of the businesses involved in NATA that we can do this for you. We're right now working with Northwest Parkway, and it's been quite interesting in gathering not only the employer data, but also the operations data for Northwest Parkway, so that we are monitoring and analyzing the carbon footprint that their vehicles on the road that are service vehicles are using. And then we're helping them with identifying alternatives to mitigation of their carbon footprint by looking at options for them to put in some EV charging or buy some EV service vehicles, doing the work from home hybrid model, doing a compressed work week model, and giving them all the options that they can use to reduce their carbon footprint. So I'm very excited about that and wanted to offer this to you. Catherine Sanders is our expert on this. She is a certified transportation demand management specialist, one of a few in the state. And so we'd like to offer that to you. And that's Smart Commutes report. Next month, we will bring you the year in review of all the things that we've done at Smart Commute, as well as all the things that NATA's done. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Any questions for Karen? I don't think she sees any hands, so we'll go ahead and move on. So the next two items are both CDOT updates on the 270 bus tour, and then I'm hoping that the other one is also the I-25 bus tour.
It
Maybe
is.
it's just the projects. Okay.
Yeah, it's both of them. And one of the reasons we wanted to bring this to you today is that in the last 2 months, the stakeholders in the NATA area, primarily along I-25 and 270, have had the opportunity to go on a bus tour with CDOT and RTD reps for the 270 project, and also for the 84th to 104th project challenge that we have. And I'm not sure, is it Jessica Mickelbest who's here from CDOT who's going to walk us through the review of these tours?
Jessica, are you there?
Look and see if she's on here. I don't see her on here.
I don't think Jessica is on.
Tom McGinnis is on. Tom, are you able to talk about the 84th?
Sure.
Oh, that'd be great. I'll just set it up and say, and Tom was on that tour, so that's why I've kind of pointed at him. We have had an ongoing project on I-25. It's called Segment 2 and Segment 3 of the toll segments. And years ago, and many of you on this Zoom know this, we had a phase 1 project that put the managed lanes in, and then it was anticipated through the PEL and EIS that we would have other phases of this to accompany the first phase, which was the managed lanes. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. It's been delayed. And there was an environmental assessment that called out finishing, or at least putting into phase 2, some improvements from this segment that would be safety improvements and expansion improvements. And it's not moving forward very rapidly. And so the stakeholders had asked CDOT if we could have a bus tour to talk about the challenges at 84th to 104th, and what are some of the suggested project improvements, and where are we going from here. So Tom, I'm going to turn it over to you if you can give us a more professional explanation of what's happening and what we did and where we're going. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so we kind of have a major challenge with this stretch of I-25. And really the challenge is more than just 84th to 104th. It's really 270 all the way north to 104th. So we've kind of extended our limits a little bit from what we're showing on the screen here and what we've been looking at with the EA. And the EA effort, as everybody knows, has a median station for RTD at Thornton Park and Ride. And it has an express lane. Well, actually, it has the widening for the safety for the shoulders. So the biggest issues that we're running into is just how tight the corridor is. And I think everybody knows that there's a lot of crash issues. Rear enders is kind of our highest one. And we know that through studies and through what FHWA has done, that widening the corridor to standard shoulders, 10 foot or 12 foot on the inside and at least 10 foot on the outside shoulders, we see a major reduction in those crashes. And that's primarily due to the fact that people have options to, if there is a stop ahead and they are distracted, that they have some avenues, some real estate to kind of avoid those crashes. So we do know that there's a problem. We've been looking at some things other than what's proposed in the EA because of kind of the immense costs that the EA product, really, the proposed in the EA is quite expensive. So we've kind of, for the past, I guess, early this year, February, we had a kind of a design charrette with RTD to try to come up with other avenues than the expensive medium boarding station that's a couple $100 million, and it's probably more than that now. So we have embarked on an effort in the spring of this year to look at some supplemental options. And really, once we came to some things that we've learned through that effort, we wanted to have a bus tour and make sure that all the local representatives are kind of privy to what we've been doing, and just to let people know that we have been doing something. We have been looking at it. It is important to us, but it is a major challenge because really this corridor from 270 to 104th, there's really no cheap option to get things done to accomplish what we want. So we've gone back to the drawing board a little bit. Like I mentioned, we have been working with RTD because one of the major issues along this stretch is the kind of the operational issues and substandard roadway elements that kind of involve the Thornton Park and Ride, and kind of how it exists today with the slip ramps on the outside. So we've come up with some supplemental options that we've looked at that have really improved through simulation, through traffic modeling and simulation, the speeds. And we know that if we do widen the highway, at least for safety, which are, the standard shoulders, and then increasing the express lane buffer from 2 feet to 4 feet, we know that we can get some improvements that way. And so we went through a couple key elements on the bus tour that I thought were very good for people to see. So the point of the bus tour is to visualize these problems actually in the field. So the Mustang that took us all around, I think really, and we tried to target, I guess the congestion part of the day, the peak hour, but we didn't want to get stuck in the peak hour. So we kind of all met around 1 and then got on the bus and toured around 2 to 3. So we got to see some of it. But we do know that some of our biggest challenges for safety is in the southbound direction from 104th to 88th or to 84th. And in the northbound direction, our safety challenges as far as our crash data is from 270 to 84th. But some of the key elements for operational that we looked at was in the northbound direction for the most part. So we do know that I-25 around 270 doubles in volume today from just south of 270. And as you cross through 270, you have the US 36 on-ramp, you have the I-76 on-ramp, and you have the 270 on-ramp. So the volume of I-25 doubles within a quarter mile in that stretch. And we know that we're looking at some improvements on 270. So for kind of our big picture view of this is if there are improvements on 270, we need to make sure that I-25 can also handle those improvements and vice versa. So these two projects are working, need to work. And that's kind of the point of the bus tour, was to make sure that everybody knows that, these projects, I-25 North and 270, really need to work together. And in my opinion, I think a lot of the I-25 operational issues and safety issues really should be addressed before 270. But it really kind of depends on, what kind of money and where we're going to put it at the time. But we're also, another key element, again, is the Thornton Park and Ride. And the slip ramps, the existing slip ramps on the outside, really cause a lot of friction with our weaving for northbound direction. The most, we do see it in the southbound direction, but we have some major concerns. As traffic is increasing, our volume is increasing, the slip ramps are still staying on the outside in the current configuration. And if we widen I-25 for safety or for a climbing lane that we're proposing, then we know that that's an additional weave movement, and it just exacerbates the current issue with the slip ramps on the outside. So we do have some ideas to kind of fix some of the operation and safety, but we really need to make some decisions on what we do with the RTD park and ride at Thornton, specifically the slip ramps on the outside. So those are the kind of things, and we've looked at a collector distributor road, a CD road from 270 to 84th, and just looking at my notes, the concept level that we've looked at is, roughly about $60 million to do that in the northbound direction. And through our simulations that we've looked at for traffic, we've seen that our speeds have been quite high. So anytime you have good speeds, you have good efficiency through the corridor, and you have lower greenhouse gases. So we've looked at a CD road between that stretch, and then from 84th up to 104th, we're proposing a climbing lane to continue to allow all that friction, all that weaving friction through this segment to be able to climb up the hill. So in the northbound direction, we have a lot of 4% grades from 270 to 84th, it's 4%. And then, we have the Niver Creek in between 84th and Thornton Parkway, and it's kind of a flat section, but then it starts climbing again. So we see a lot of issues with our truck percentage. It's around 9 or 10%. So we have a lot of operational issues in the northbound direction. So we wanted to point those out at the bus tour, and I think we had some really good conversations after we kind of all saw those specific things, and we just want to be able to move forward with some direction. Right now, our everything we've looked at the last year is concept level, but we'd like to push it forward. But one of our big hurdles and our big discussion points is the existing slip ramps, and the way we would like it to move forward is, if we are going to do some improvements on I-25, that we look into closing the existing slip ramps on the outside, specifically the northbound off ramp has probably the most operational issues with RTD and our general purpose traffic. And then the southbound on ramp from the slip ramps, we have issues there. So we really need to make a decision on how to proceed with those slip ramps if we are to make some improvements to I-25. And really, the option that works the best, and it's the most expensive, is a median boarding station. So
Yeah.
like we discussed in the tour, it's kind of those big decisions that we need to get kind of move forward. So hopefully I provided a little bit of background on the bus tour. And if there are any questions or follow up, if you'd like to see what our concepts are, we can certainly provide those. Because I don't think we've done that yet from the bus tour, but we certainly can. So
Well, thanks, Tom. We really appreciate your input there. We are talking at the local level of putting together a small task force, a subcommittee of NATA, to start talking about how can we help? How can we target what the right solution is? How do we get involved? How do we get others involved? How do we bring more money to the table? And all the things that, you know, are challenges to this project. But I'm going to let the others who were on that bus tour and who have a clear understanding of what the challenges are and maybe have some solutions. And maybe here's the solution guy, Commissioner Odoricio. I'll call on him first. And after that, I see Julie Mullica, Councilmember Mullica's hand up. Thank you.
I'm always willing to help toss in my my thoughts on some of this stuff. I want to thank CDOT for putting together these bus tours. It does show that you guys are trying to engage and listen to us. And I got to give Shoshana and the CDOT team credit for that. So thank you very much. The challenge that we're having, I think, and this is just my opinion, but like, I think the challenge we're having, I'm going to talk about first I-25, then I-270, is that I-25, like when we talk about wanting to do improvements, and there are definitely safety improvements that need to be done. People are getting hurt on that stretch and it is packed. But when we're talking about the constraints of not, you know, supporting huge capacity improvements, when we're talking about constraints with wanting to shut down that lane, the reason why we're pushing and have pushed for that center median loading station is because people don't like the side ramps. And so what I don't want to see is in a time when legislators and everyone's trying to push for multimodal, that we lose both. We don't get either the inside ramps, the inside loading, or we lose the outside ramps. And it's just counterintuitive, especially when you look at the big picture where everyone's pushing for multimodal. We're starting to add multimodal and other things as criteria to help determine our success in funding. And it could be, you know, it could put us at a disadvantage in a lot of areas if all of a sudden in our effort to improve, we're actually losing capacity for the multimodal that we were looking to enhance. So that's something that's hard for us. And I think it's okay just to lay out the challenges that we need RTD and CDOT to help us with that. Because we don't want to, like, at the end of the day, have this improvement and lose both the inside loading station that we were working so hard for, and then we lose the outside ramps that further hinder our ability to get multimodal. That brings us to the other big picture thing, is that I-270. That was a great tour. And then we did a follow-up tour. So there's two tours on I-270 that happened. One was with some of the elected officials, and the other one was a follow-up with some of the environmental groups that are concerned about 270 and the enhanced capacity improvements along there. The bottom line is Denver, Boulder are done growing and the rest of us are not. So we got to keep pushing for us to find solutions that allow us in Adams County in the North Metro area to continue growing, but not put us at a disadvantage or to in getting funding for our projects. And so we have to be very careful that in our attempt to make improvements and on our attempt to try to address multimodal, greenhouse gases and other things, though, that we don't tie one of our hands behind our backs, because it's the North Metro's time to grow. It's our opportunity, and we can do it in a way that is more environmentally friendly, but we also need to do it our way. And sometimes the folks in those other jurisdictions think that the only way to do it is the way that they look at it. And so we got to work together and stay united as a North Metro area. That's a lot, sorry, but thank you.
Thanks very much. And Jessica Sangren, are you on yet?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm still driving. I had to get off the highway because there was a bad accident at just south of 84th and I-25.
Go figure. It never happens, does it? Every day. I was going to call you Commissioner Mullica. Maybe that's premature. Councilmember Mullica.
Yeah, probably a little premature. Okay, so going from here, I'm going to capitalize on some of Steve's comments. But first of all, I want to thank the CDOT staff that were on the bus tour, who engaged with us during this tour. It was, I think, a really constructive conversation that at least me as a local elected official was like, we've been waiting for that opportunity for a really long time. So just having you there, discussing the barriers, I think was just, I don't know, therapy in itself. So I'm excited to see that we're continuing to have this conversation and move forward. I do want to thank you for expanding your scope from 270 to 104th, because I think that that is the true scope of the project or of the problem. And looking at that entire section is just beneficial. And I know that there have been electeds who've been kind of pushing CDOT to kind of look at that larger scope ever since like the 270 conversations got started. So I'm excited to see that you guys are kind of looking at the whole picture here. A question that I do have, Tom, is, so you mentioned in your kind of presentation that you believe a good solution is the median boarding station. So isn't that what's in the original EA, or how does the solutions that you're kind of looking at now differ from the original EA that was already essentially ready to go for this project?
Yeah, so the EA does have the median boarding station, and I think for operations of the buses, it just makes a lot of sense to not they don't need to weave across 3 to 5 lanes if we widen it, maybe even further. So that's like one of our biggest operational concerns is the buses, needing to weave from the express lane to the outside where the existing ramps are. And with our congestion in this day and age, it's not a very, I think even the RTD bus drivers do not like that movement. So operationally and functionally, the median boarding station works the best. However, it's extremely expensive and requires an 80-foot wide, what we've proposed in the EA is an additional 80 feet of widening to accommodate that, and maybe there's some other options in doing that maybe we can look at. I think it's, if we have all the money in the world, it's probably the best and safest option. So that's the reason that I said that. And I said that at the tour as well, that, if we're not going to do the median boarding station, then we really need to look at how to fix the current problems that we have with the slip ramps on the outside. And especially, like I said, if we widen I-25, that just compounds the issue and the additional weaving and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
we have some ideas, if we are we're always financially constrained, but if we don't have the median station, and what we've been looking at is supplemental type options or other options to the EA, and maybe what we've kind of come up with is it's still really expensive, but it's not, it doesn't require as much full depth widening as what's in the EA. So it's just naturally going to be a little bit cheaper. And I think that we can do more by extending our limits and still be less than the 84th to 104th EA project, which is, a couple years ago, 230 million. So I think we can do things for under 200 million and even potentially extend the limits down to 270 with providing that collector distributor road that will handle the 270 upgrades in the future. So I think there's, and we can provide some information that we've worked on, the stuff that we've researched and we've worked on to everybody to help make those decisions. But we need to make a hard decision on the slip ramps, and we just need some help and some direction from everybody. And we can provide the engineering and the costs and kind of the big picture look at it. But what we're saying is that we're the operations and the safety issues with the slip ramps exist today, and they're just going to get worse. So we need to be able to come up with a good solution for everybody. But we need help with what are people's concerns, what are the questions, what are you proposing, and we just need to work through that, because right now we're kind of at a roadblock, I would say, at a decision point where we just not to put all the pressure on RTD, honestly, because we're all trying to work together and solve these problems, but we're kind of at a standpoint with these concepts that we've come up with because the concepts that we've looked at so far really don't account for it. What they account for is essentially closing the existing slip ramps to make everything work. But we know that that's probably not the end result. Like everybody has mentioned, we want to have some kind of park and ride there or something there, but we might need to make some sacrifices with how we get into the park and ride. Like I mentioned, it's really the northbound off ramp into that slip ramp that's an issue, and it's the southbound from the slip ramp on ramp to I-25. Those two movements are substandard and atypical, and they're just getting worse with the increased volume of traffic. So we just need everyone's help and RTD as well, and all of you guys. Just what can we all live with? If the slip ramps kind of need to exist on the outside, then we need to make some changes if they're going to exist, and that's for operations and safety mindset.
Okay, and I think from the previous bus tour, we talked about having CDOT engaging with RTD. Has that conversation started yet at all?
So we have been working with RTD. Like I mentioned, we had the design charrette in February of this year. Some of the options that were presented were seemingly a lot more expensive than the median boarding station. They involve TODs, transportation oriented developments, and things like that. Those kind of things that take a lot of time. So we kind of went back a little bit, and we started our own internal, using our headquarters traffic, and we kind of created a new project to look at it internally, and we came up with these different options. And in the meantime, or in parallel, we've been working with RTD staff on, well, we didn't really get much out of the design charrette because they were all kind of really big, hard to do projects, we felt. So we wanted to see what else they could live with. And so we got a couple options in June, or sometime in the summer. We got some more options to review from RTD. They kind of proposed a couple options, and they proposed options that had the existing slip ramps where they were on the outside with widening I-25. So we had some major concerns with those options, and we provided a letter back to them, which I provided to a few of the board members that were on the bus tour, the RTD board members, a few weeks ago or just before Thanksgiving. So we have not had a discussion after we kind of responded to them via letter and said, we have a hard time supporting these options due to the same kind of problems that we're seeing out there today. So we haven't had that yet. I'm hoping that we can have that in the near future, but it's a necessary step.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to leave the rest of my questions for another date, just for the sake of time. But I do appreciate the time you've spent on this project. I know that I think we're looking at getting more engaged to make sure that this project continues to move forward, because it has been at a standstill for a really long time. So probably you'll hear a lot more from us coming up. Thank you.
Thanks, Council Member Mullica. So Tom, as the CDOT Commissioner for this region, I'd like to work together with you to provide information to the stakeholders. Councilmember Mullica and Mayor Pro Tem Sangren and I have talked about putting together a small task force to look at options and get a deep dive into what the challenges are at first of the year, I think is what we said, to put something together under NATA and open it to anybody on NATA who wants to participate on these subcommittees. So if you'll meet with me first of the year and get some of that information to me, then we'll put a packet together to send everybody who wants to be part of this subcommittee, so we can start strategizing how we can support an option. I do want to say one thing that you haven't mentioned, and that maybe is not appropriate for you to mention, but is appropriate for me to mention, is that HPTE has a proposal in front of them from ROTUS to build the center loading platform as part of improvements on the toll segments from 2 to 8. And the proposal includes finishing out the segment 3, building segment 4 and 5, which are Westminster area and Broomfield area in Erie area, and making the safety improvements that are necessary at the toll road location for segment 2, which includes the center loading platform. So that's an option that's still in front of CDOT, still in front of HPTE. And as the vice chair of HPTE, we moved that option forward last month to have a further analysis. So that's still on the table, might be something that we as a subcommittee would consider supporting. If we did that one, that could help with the I-25 issue, take that money out of the responsibility of CDOT and let CDOT do the 270 in conjunction with that. Those are just high level discussions that we've been having internally to try to figure out how to manage this challenge, but did want to say that ROTUS proposal is still in front of HPTE and is supposed to go into further analysis. So maybe I'll turn it over now to Carson, who has the results of our votes, and then we can move on with the agenda. Thanks everyone for your attention on this really important problem, and you're going to hear a lot more from us in 2022.
Thanks, Karen. I do have the results. So Commissioner Baca has been appointed vice chair based on the votes. Mayor Mills, you were second in the votes. That means you're going to be treasurer for 2022. And then Mayor Huseman and Mayor McNally will both be appointed to SPC, as I understand it, the way the voting process worked.
And as long as they're willing to do that, as long as they're willing to accept those.
Sorry, I put you there. I put your shoes on there for you. My apologies.
Thank you for that information, and thanks for those who stepped up. So we would welcome our 2022 slate, which is Mayor Joan Peck from Longmont as the chair, and then Commissioner Baca as vice chair, and Mayor Mills as treasurer. And so they'll just come in 2022 with the big plate full of lots of fun transportation things to work on. And so with that, we'll just keep moving. And I do want to say that I am happy to see that Andres is on the phone as always. We do have very good support with our senators, and especially hearing the cost of some of these projects, having their support and help in trying to acquire some of those funds to get some of this done. It's not just a drain on the taxpayers, but it's a drain on our resources for our cities as well. I know Northland and Thornton, we put a lot of resources towards those accidents each and every day. And so it's costing us quite a bit in a lot of different ways. So I look forward to that continued discussion. So we'll keep moving on the agenda, which is, I believe RTD is up next.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'm guessing this is the RTD director reports because there's 2 RTD things on here, but I think Troy Whitmore has another obligation that he needs to get to, so I'm going to let Troy go first.
Thanks, Vince. Can you all hear me?
We can hear you.
We can hear
Troy.
you.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Kate. Good to have you on the call. I'm in a noisy room right before a board meeting, so I apologize for that, but compressed schedules kind of cause these type of situations. I don't want to take too much time because I know we're going to talk a little bit more about Union Station later. But just one of the things that I wanted to make you all aware of, which doesn't affect a lot of the outside looking in, but it does for the RTD board, is we changed our bylaws to rework our committee structure for the agency. As most of you know, almost all of our committees were committees of the whole. So we were going to every meeting of every committee, and it just became a bit unwieldy for both the staff and the members of the board. So on January 4th, when we elect our officers, we'll be putting our committees together, and they will be much smaller and more nimble, and will allow some flexibility in the schedule for everybody, and I think will be more effective. So that is in the works, and we look forward to seeing how that works out. So that's my brief update, as I've got to run soon. I'd like to relinquish time back to Vince and Kate or any other board members that are with us, and then look forward to hopefully hearing the update on Union Station as well. Thanks, Vince. It's all yours.
Thanks, Troy. We also have Director Eric Davidson and Director Kate Williams, and I'll let them speak in that order after me. So I just want to concur with Commissioner Stewart with regard to some of the things we saw at the Rider Appreciation Outreach for Parade of Lights a couple Saturdays ago. It was kind of an eye opener for me because I don't use the ticketing machines. Even before I was a director, I used my smartphone kind of thing. But it was very interesting to see the confusion in people on how to get a ticket and where to get a ticket to, because they have all these options of local day, local 3-hour, regional day, regional 3-hour, and there's no explanation anywhere as to what that means and what tickets they should get. The other problem that I saw is you had a bunch of families, and these are occasional riders, right? But we need to, make sure that they have a good experience. You have families come where you've got seniors who should get a discount. You've got the mom and dad who should pay full fare, and you've got kids who should get a discount. You can't go into that ticketing machine and in one transaction purchase all those tickets. Those are 3 separate transactions you have to do on the machine. Kind of a problem. Deborah, I know you're listening. Anyway, other than that, we're kind of winding down toward the end of the year. We don't have any more regular board or committee meetings, which is kind of nice for the end of the year. But we're looking forward to the new year coming up. One of the first things we'll be doing is working on a director's retreat to talk about issues that we want to look at and address in the coming year. And I know First Vice Chair Lynn Geisinger is working hard on putting that all together. So other than that, we're moving forward and hopefully have more to report to you next meeting in January when we've realigned ourselves. I'll turn it over to Director Davidson now. Thanks.
Thanks, Vince. Appreciate it. Good to see y'all. I'll keep it brief so we can get to the Union Station update. And thank you to Ms. Johnson and our staff for joining us today for that. Just some other quick updates since we were last together with you all at the end of October, some formal actions from the board at the November 16th board meeting. We did adopt our 2022 budget, so that is now published out there. Very happy with the work that our team has done over the last year to make our budgets a lot easier to read, to understand, and a lot more clearly tied to our strategic outcomes in our new strategic plan. So certainly encourage y'all, if you have any interest in looking at budgets, to take a look at that. It's a lot easier to read than it has been in the past for RTD. On November 16th, we also did authorize CEO and general manager to purchase 17 new 40-foot electric buses. So obviously, as we all continue to look towards a more sustainable future, that was an action we were all excited to take as a board, and grateful to staff for bringing that plan forward. We also, on November 16th, I know a big topic that's been talked about a number of times with this group is the fair and equity analysis across the whole system that Ms. Johnson has been leading. On the 16th, we also did authorize entering into a contract to facilitate the system-wide fair and equity analysis. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't continually remind everybody we are actively trying to hire right now. As we all know, the labor challenges and staffing challenges across many industries are increasingly difficult. And certainly that's true for us at RTD. So we are actively pursuing bus and rail operators, technicians, and mechanics, and are offering signing bonuses right now. So certainly, please help us spread the word that we are looking for people to join the team. And then also, Ms. Johnson has been with us for a year now. Amazing how quickly a year can go. And the board did just approve the performance analysis, which was very positive. We've been very happy with the work that Ms. Johnson has been doing here, and we look forward to 2022, where we'll be able to leverage new metrics, new data that we've been capturing, and a new strategic plan to help organize the agency, move it forward, drive towards metrics, use things like our simplified budgeting to communicate better with the community at large. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. I think Director Williams is on the call, and happy to yield the floor to her as well. So thank you.
Wow. It's a lot of RTD directors here. That's fantastic. I just want you all to know that I will be attending regularly henceforth, but I'm really here in my Dr. Mac hat. Dr. Mac is an organization, if you don't know us, who represents older adults and people with disabilities. We are the regional coordinating council for the 9-county region that includes all of you guys. And so I apologize for not being here more often, but Karen Stewart promised me that I would learn stuff, and I have learned all kinds of things already this morning. So in my Dr. Mac hat, there's that. In my RTD hat, I'm sure you all know that nimble was the right word to use. We are really trying hard under Deborah Johnson's guidance to be more responsive, to listen better, and to react more quickly. And part of that work, we are right now doing presentations on our, well, here we go, SOP, System Operating Plan updates that we have done in 5 areas that have been referred to a lot as travel sheds. So if you don't have current information on that, we'd love to have your participation. Please give us your feedback on that subject. And that's all I have to tell you today. Heads up, I tend to be a talker, so you might be sorry that I started coming to these meetings, but I will hand it over. Who's left that didn't get to speak? Is there another RTD director here, Vince?
I think that's it. I didn't see anybody else. Anybody else out there? Nope.
Okay, any RTD staff that is supposed to speak?
Nope, just us.
I'll shut up.
I think Deborah's gonna, I think someone's gonna speak in the next agenda item.
Okay, goodbye.
Thanks. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thanks, Vince. Any questions for the RTD directors? I don't know if anybody has a hand up.
If I may,
Well, just-
Madam Chair, just a point of clarification, and thank you to Director Williams for speaking about Reimagine RTD. It's actually the system optimization plan, because the ultimate goal is to optimize resources as we leverage our transit network to create greater efficiency. So I just wanted to clarify what SOP stood for in this instance. So thank you.
Thanks, Deborah, and congratulations on your first year. It's hard to believe it's been a year.
Oh, trust and believe. It is. Thank you.
All right, we'll keep moving to the Union Station Safety Report.
So, Madam Chair, if I may, Deborah Johnson, General Manager and CEO, and thank you very much for the opportunity to provide a status as it relates to unwelcome activity in and around the Denver Union Station complex. As many of you are aware that, there's been recent attention been brought forward as it relates to media reports, but this has been something has been ongoing in reference to trying to mitigate the unwelcome activity in and around Denver Union Station since I came to this organization just a little over a year ago. There's been great strides in reference to mitigating that activity, and some of it has been exacerbated by different activities in and around the Denver core as it relates to a myriad of different issues. Those that are experiencing homelessness, those that are suffering from mental illness and drug addiction. And in light of residual impacts from the pandemic and open spaces that have been closed, what we have seen is sort of a convergence in and around Denver Union Station, but more specifically in the bus concourse. So recognizing that the week of November 29th, the media took to this, RTD has been making great strides in trying to work in earnest to mitigate these societal issues. And it cannot be done alone in reference to RTD being a transit provider trying to mitigate. So with that as a backdrop, I had been working on collaborating with Homeland Security, most specifically the Transit Securities Administration's VIPER teams. And what VIPER stands for is Visible Intermodal Prevention and Response Teams. And basically what VIPER teams are, they are used within the transportation realm, not just public transport, but more specifically in this instance, to augment sworn transit police officers and contracted security teams. And this model spawned out of the attack that happened back in Madrid, Spain in 2006, when there was that attack on the subway system there. So that's been one instance in which we're trying to do, because recognizing that it's not a crime to experience homelessness, but it's incumbent upon me, and of course, in conjunction with the board, to provide an environment where our employees can have a safe work environment, and in turn, our customers as well can have a safe and clean, inviting experience when you're utilizing transit. So additionally to the VIPERs, leveraged the guardian angels, because recognizing that we are in the midst of the Great Recession, as Director Davidson pointed out, we've had support from the city and county of Denver, but that entity too basically is having trouble as it relates to hiring and retaining police officers, and recognizing that we can't basically enforce our way out of this problem. It's going to take a lot of hands on deck. So with that as a backdrop, have been engaged with the city and county of Denver and other resource entities as we come together collaboratively and try to discern what it is that we can do. There are short-term strategies, long-term strategies, and I have been in close contact with the city and county of Denver, specifically the mayor's office, and had such an engagement back on December 3rd, had a subsequent meeting yesterday with a cross-section of individuals at the city and county of Denver. I'd be remiss to speak out as it relates to this, but we're working on, a strategy where we bring, certain entities to the table where we talk in earnest. And on a parallel track also, I, along with members of my team, have been engaged with property owners, both at a commercial level and homeowners association, as we have sessions relative to what it is that we need to do to mitigate that behavior. Just was there yesterday afternoon, engaging with employees, having conversations, talking firsthand to operators, to what we call station starters, customer service representatives as well, trying to discern what is going on. I know there's been reports in the media where it said we closed our elevators. Never did we close our elevators. I'm not trying to, basically act in contrast to the American with Disabilities Act. Tried to get that retracted. What we did was do a remediation in light of reports about illicit drug use. Want to ensure that there's not any residual impact from those substances in those conveyances, nor in our restrooms. The restrooms on the bus concourse level, which are temporarily closed, they're closed due to the fact that I thought it was prudent to test our restrooms, found trace amounts of fentanyl. And in light of that, which was deemed not to be harmful, acted out of an abundance of caution to have remediation crews come in. And in doing so as well, we do not have permanent doors on the restroom. Hence, that's why they are closed as we look to get those doors in place. And more so, having personally gone into those restrooms, We need to ensure that the restrooms are in a state of good repair, as there were a lot of things that had been damaged in said restroom because of the activity that was occurring. Faucets, the handles to the faucets had been removed and other things of the like. So to sum that up in a nutshell, there has been great interest, and I'm glad. Everything happens for a reason. My memorandum that I sent to my employees here at the organization, apprising them of steps, made its way into social media and then to media and became public knowledge, which I believed created a sense of urgency for other entities to respond where there had not been as vast, robust anticipation to help mitigate. But needless to say, that we're all in this together, and we look forward to proactively creating an environment that can be enjoyed by all and create a very good travel experience. Do have support from the city and county of Denver that they will be providing resources as we go forward to the end of the year, and then some as we get back together and discern what may be. We have support with the Vipers to have them toward the end of the year, We're working with Washington, D.C., trying to see what we can do to continue that as we go forward. And with that, I'll yield the floor. And one last thing. As it relates to the bus concourse, looking at options as it relates to providing a zone for those customers that have paid so they can be in an area. It's commonplace in most densely populated areas with the urbanized core that you would have an area solely for those that are utilizing the system. So looking at options and not just putting up, velvet ropes or things of the like, doing some enhanced infrastructure to mitigate that as well. So that concludes my report, and I am happy to address any questions that any assembled may have. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Deborah. And I do see Commissioner Odoricio has his hand up.
Yeah. Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Deborah, thank you so much. I think we need to rally around RTD. What they're trying to do is they're trying to clean up the place and make it safe for the riders. And I understand that they may get some flack from folks, just like we get flack for cleaning up our trails, like we get flack for cleaning up our parks. But the bottom line is that you can't just let public resources, as stewards of public assets, we have a duty to protect the folks that use those assets as well as those assets themselves. So I think it's unfortunate if anyone's pushing back on what you guys are doing from the standpoint of trying to protect those assets and the people that use them. So thank you very much for what you're doing, and I support you guys in that effort.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else have questions or comments? Deborah, I do appreciate the report out. I think it's been on the top of our minds. We've seen it so often now in the news. So I think you have a lot of support from all of us, keeping our residents and community down there, especially if we're heading down that way, safe and knowing what's going on. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I think we just have one last item on the agenda, which is Andres Carrera giving us an update on funding.
Thank you very much, ma'am. It is always a pleasure to interact with NATA. I have fond memories back when I used to work for Commissioners Odoricio and Baca, who are on this call. Shout out to my former bosses. So I have a long history with it and absolutely love this group. So thank you for the opportunity to give a brief update. It's been a long meeting and I promise I won't take too much of your time. So of course, the Congress just passed the Bipartisan Infrastructure Framework. Hickenlooper is part of a group of 22 different senators who helped negotiate and pass the largest part of our nation's, who helped negotiate and pass the largest investment, rather, in our nation's infrastructure since the New Deal, and the largest climate bill in U.S. history. I know that these are huge priorities to NATA, so I wanted to ensure that that everybody walked away knowing that it's the $1.2 trillion Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act will be transformational for Colorado's transit infrastructure and our clean energy future, climate change mitigation, broadband access, clean water, and much more. I mean, it was a hurricane wind yesterday up here in the Rocky Mountains. And I think this is welcome news. We certainly need climate change legislation like the one that Hickenlooper just helped pass. Part of this bipartisan infrastructure framework includes the Recharge Act, which essentially makes it much more affordable, much less expensive for folks to go and set up charge stations, so that we can expect to see more electric vehicles take to the streets. Ultimately, Colorado is expected to receive $6.17 billion, again, $6.17 billion as part of the bipartisan infrastructure framework. That comes out to about $1.1 thousand per resident. By the way, California and Texas are getting around $1.1 thousand as well. So we're right in there as a state. So the big three things that are in this bill: highway repairs, public transportation, and clean and safe drinking water. So we have $3.7 billion in there for 3,600 miles of highway repairs. We also have $917 million for public transportation and $688 million to improve water infrastructure across the state and ensure that clean and safe drinking water is a right in all communities. I also wanted to mention, since we had RTD on, that we will be returning the RTD's deposit on their Union Station loan. Hickenlooper's provisions would require the DOT to quickly return the $28.9 million plus interest for a deposit that RTD made on a federal loan related to Denver's Union Station. We can all agree it's coming in right at the right time. So anyway, everybody here wants to know exactly how much, how many dollars and cents are going to Adams County, to Brighton, to Broomfield, to all of these different locations, right? That's not a knowable thing right now, unfortunately. Although a very fair question. I'll be the first one here at, on a future call, as soon as I'm able to break down with a nice and neat spreadsheet exactly how much money everybody is getting. We expect that to become knowable here in the first quarter, according to the conversations I've had with the FTA. Just know as well that the governor's office and Hickenlooper's office are in lockstep on this one. So I'm in frequent communication with their office. And so then if you ask a question of me, if I don't know the answer, then I can kick it over to my friends in the Gov's office. We're working together, multiple levels of government here. In the meantime, what I wanted to point out was we have hundreds of billions of dollars of major competitive discretionary grants. And so then this is money that you would get on top of all of the formulaic allocations that's currently kind of making its way through the federal government to all of the different counties and munis that are represented here. So again, this is the cherry on top, so to speak. I'll upload that. They will prioritize equity. Anybody who mentions equity in those applications, that's kind of that's the secret sauce to getting it your project fully funded. They have it in three areas: transportation, energy, and broadband. And so I'll go ahead and I will, and the environment, so 4 areas. So I'll go ahead and I'll upload that spreadsheet here. If you're interested in more information about these different grants, I encourage you to go to grants.gov. Some information is not going to be immediately available, which I know is frustrating, but that is because, all of this, a lot of these grants are brand spanking new. And so anyway, Uncle Sam is just taking its time to develop all of the necessary information there. So again, the big takeaway, $6.17 billion. It comes out to $1,100 per resident. The vast majority of that going to highway repairs, public transportation, and cleaning and safe drinking water. And I'll upload all of those fact sheets here in just a second. Thank you. Happy to take any questions as well.
Thanks, Andres. Do we have any questions? I don't see any hands up. I think we're all looking forward to seeing how that money can be used. I'm sure we would all love to see that money used on those projects that we heard about earlier. Well, I do not see any other hands up. Any other comments before we, looks like we'll have a few minutes early out of here today. And I do not see any hands. So I appreciate everyone coming in. This has been a really great year. Strange that we're still on Zoom meeting, but I think we've still been able to accomplish quite a bit. And so look forward to 2022 with the new leadership in place. And thank you everyone for your time. Have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Happy
Bye.
holidays.